Joining me now are three congressmen on the House Judiciary Committee: Jim Jordan, Tom McClintock, and Ken Buck. Congressman Jordan, let's start with you. The articles are expected to hit the floor tomorrow. What can Republicans do now?
We can continue to point out the truth. All the facts are on the president's side. They've always been on the president's side, and that's why the Democrats had to resort to this unfair partisan process they conducted in the House. No subpoenas for Republicans. None of our witnesses could be invited to the hearings in the depositions. Adam Schiff prevented some witnesses from answering Republican questions. All the Democrat questions got answered. And of course, Adam Schiff told us that the whistleblower was going to testify until we all discovered, oh, wait a minute, the whistleblower had met with Adam Schiff's staff, so then he wasn't going to testify. So this idea that they're now talking about process concerns in the Senate after what the House Democrats did through this entire 3 months is just kind of laughable. And I think your angle was right on.
I mean, it really, it just came to me in the car. You always say it's a circus, but it truly is a circus. But it's one of those lame, the kind that just didn't have a lot of money, and they kind of had a broken down old elephant. And then they had it, we had those in our town, and you're just like, okay, can we get the real circus? If we're going to see a circus, we want a good circus. Congressman McClintock, Nancy Pelosi, I think her gut was against doing this. And I know she's not going to say it. She wishes they didn't walk out onto the edge of this branch, and now they're about to saw it off.
Well, I can't read minds, but it reminds me a lot of what the Air Force describes as target fixation, when a pilot gets so fixated on a target that he forgets to fly his plane and ends up crashing into a mountain. I think that's where the Democrats are, and they're crashing the country into a mountain. I mean, these articles of impeachment are an absolute travesty. And by the way, I think you owe an apology to America's circuses comparing what's going on in that building right now.
Yeah. Well, Congressman Buck, the president is responding to this impending vote. And he did so today with a scathing letter to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, writing, quote, "History will judge you harshly as you proceed with this impeachment charade. Your legacy will be that of turning the House of Representatives from a revered legislative body into a star chamber of partisan persecution." Well, here's how Nancy reacted.
Your reaction is the president's letter?
No reaction. It's ridiculous.
You have no reaction? Why not?
Yeah, I haven't really fully read it. We've been working. I've seen the essence of it, though, and it's really sick.
It's really sick. Congressman.
Well, what the president did was lay out the procedural flaws in the House process. And I think that if the bar stays this low for future impeachments, we're going to have a problem as a country, because anytime we have a Republican House, a Republican House and Senate, and a Democrat president, the Republicans are going to go after the Democrat president if this is where the bar is. It shouldn't be here.
Now, your colleague, Elsie Hastings, sure spent a lot of time pontificating on impeachment today.
What we have here is a corrupt president that wanted to do something to advance his political circumstances.
Well, a little interesting, slightly, that congressman back in 1988, Mr. Hastings, was himself impeached when he was a federal judge for bribery and perjury. But like the circus, it keeps coming back up into town. I mean, the same people. He's only one of 8 people ever to be removed from office by a Senate impeachment trial. So, Congressman Jordan, you literally can't make this up. I saw that and I said, that actually isn't Elsie Hastings. But I said, oh yeah, it is Elsie.
Yeah, it just keeps getting stranger and stranger. Remember what Nancy Pelosi promised on September 24th when she launched the House of Representatives on this crusade. She promised that in the end it'd be bipartisan. In the end, they would move the American people. When they actually had the hearings, it would move Americans towards their position. And in fact, just the opposite has happened. So much so that when they took the vote on the official inquiry, 2 Democrats voted with us, and now one of those Democrats is going to switch and become a Republican. So they have not made their case because they don't have the facts on their side.
Now, I read the entire letter. It's hard-hitting,
yeah. But
a good friend of mine in Florida, who's very politically connected, said the president is teaching Republicans how to fight. They used to like Mitt Romney's rules of order, and we're going to be very, oh, my dear friend and from New York, I respect you so much, but I have a slight disagreement, a quibble with you. Like, he's not going to do that. He's going to you come at him with a club, and he's going to come at you with something bigger and harder. And Congressman McClintock, they were hammering this letter. I mean, they seized this letter, and they must have been like Evelyn Wood speed readers, because they read this letter, and they immediately pounced. Watch.
This afternoon, he sent a 6-page, hyperbole-filled screed. It's a revealing glimpse into the president's mind right now.
This is a tantrum being done on White House letterhead. And senators who read this are going to be concerned about his mental state. The letter is more of a midnight rant by the president, and regrettably, it's filled with lies.
Honestly, this is almost like a letter that Kim Jong-un wrote.
I mean, the letter is hard-hitting, but the letter is pretty darn, on point, on almost every point. They were trying to distract from the economy. They're obsessed with getting him. They hate him. They hate the Americans who voted for him.
Well, I think there's a big reason he was elected. Not because he talks in smarmy platitudes like politicians, but precisely because he doesn't. What you get with Donald Trump is the blunt, clear talk of a Manhattan businessman. He says what he means what he says, and I think a lot of people found that appealing.
Congressman Buck, he says in this letter that the Democrats are the ones who are interfering with the next election. Everything they accuse him of, they're in fact doing. They're intolerant. They're filled with hate. They want to dilute the votes of Americans who will turn out to vote for Trump. They want to remove that choice from the ballot.
And this is the opening statement that you're going to see in the Senate. And the president is laying out for the American people what the American people can expect. And if Mitch McConnell shortens the Senate trial, it's unfortunate because I think the American people are waiting to see the Republican narrative. We haven't had that opportunity in the House. I
ran into Louis Gohmert in the green room. Congressman Jordan Louis up for a fight. I mean, he's like, why are we shutting? They get the moderates want to shut this thing down. And my concern as a lawyer, I used to do this stuff, is that you never know what you're going to get. Like, right. you think it's like don't dig a hole when you're on top of terra firma here. That's the only concern. But I kind of want to take it to the wall too with these people.
Well, we'd all like to hear from the whistleblower, but I trust Mitch McConnell and what the senators are going to do. The facts are, the facts are on the president's side. We've said this for months now. 4 facts have never changed. We have the transcript. There was no linkage, no quid pro quo. We have the 2 guys on the call. Zelensky and President Trump said no pressure, no linkage, no pushing whatsoever. We have the fact Ukraine didn't know the call. Aid was held up at the time of the call. Most importantly, the Ukrainians did nothing to get the aid released. So those facts have never changed, will never change.
They keep saying you're not arguing the substance.
That is the substance. Those are
they're like, oh, they're not arguing the substance. Tom McClintock and Ken Buck and Jim Jordan are just talking about process.
Well, let's talk about the substance for a second. I mean, if you brought a case to a court that charged no actual crimes, but rather pretend crimes that you made up. Those are the 2 articles of impeachment, abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. Those are not crimes. Obstruction of Congress means he went to the courts to defend his constitutional prerogatives. Abuse of power means he lawfully exercised his constitutional powers just in a manner that the Congress
so no crime,
farce. And present no evidence that would be admissible in a court. It's all hearsay, or in other words, gossip. That's what's supporting their flimsy case of not actual crimes but made-up crimes. This would have been thrown out in an instant.
Congressman Jordan, I hear you're going to be one of the people arguing. Is that true?
That's up to the White House. I'd be happy to help if they think we can. Look, like I said, the facts are on the president's side. I'm going to do anything I can to help the president.
Hours of debate tomorrow. It's going to keep going.
6 hours long. Well, an hour of the rule and then 6 hours of debate. So
Coal and all of their stockings. Congressman, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here tonight.